Now I'm going to start Unit 8 and the topic is war. So we're going to have some recordings basically focusing on the concept of war. And then later we're going to answer some questions related to the recordings to check our listening comprehension. So for the beginning, for the pre-listening task, I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to think about the possible answers. Number 1, what is your favorite book or movie about war? How has it affected you and your attitude toward war? Number 2, what do you think are the causes of war? And 3, what damage does war do to mankind? Number 4, is war justified? Ever justified? 5, is war a constructive way to resolve conflicts? Explain your opinion. And 6, do you think war can be avoided? Why or why not? And 7, have you visited a war cemetery or a war memorial? If you have, how did you feel? War is the favorite topic of many literary fictions, many movies, and even poems. Writers or filmmakers try to focus and try to reveal horrors of war, and sometimes they even show the reasons and the causes of war, and in detail they show psychological sufferings and repercussions that war has on the people engaged in, and not only directly but indirectly. So there are many different even animations basically focusing on the concept of war. Even if you remember, a lot of historical documentaries can be found on two world wars and the effect they have on human beings in different countries. Many wars have been waged by the strong nations on the weaker ones regarding the territorial gains. Out of the differences, the clashes, the conflicts between the two nations, or between the two tribes, in terms of religion, in terms of territory, in terms of economical situation would affect this war and would cause this war. So there are many reasons that can cause the breakout of the war. It is a tragedy because many people would suffer. Many people are left in pain, in misery. A lot of homes are burned, or a lot of people are killed. In the case of war, even you can see that the whole city is eradicated, is totally destroyed as a matter of bombs and due to bombs and ammunition. Soldiers as well as civilians are killed in war, and many people and families fall apart due to war and the consequences. In peacetime, you notice that sons bury fathers, but when war happens, there's this order of nature, and then in the time of war, you can see fathers bury sons. Is costly. It means that it might have a lot of costs regarding the human resources, regarding buildings, regarding the civil situations. War is costly in terms of the money that is wasted and the buildings, that whole city that is destroyed, and the human lives that are lost. Sometimes we can say that war is justified whenever it happens in terms of correcting or righting a wrong, or in terms of defending justice, in terms of restoring peace. So in some cases we can say that war is justifiable. But why do we choose war? Sometimes because we cannot find other ways. Sometimes there are not more logical solutions. There is no other positive solution to settle this problem down. Use of force and use of war is just a poor solution, and it is a wrong answer to the problem, because when you answer with violence, then violence is doubled and multiplied, and we can say that violence breeds violence, and there is no end to it but just a lot of destruction and loss. We can say that in wartime, everyone loses, not only those who are concerned, but also those who were not concerned, not only soldiers, but also the civilian people, or those who were not aggressive and violent at all. And we can say that in history, we can never find good war or bad peace, because war in its ultimate sense is negative, and peace in its ultimate totality is positive. It's constructive, beneficial, advantageous, profitable. On the other hand, with war, you cannot find anything positive. When there are certain conflicts and clashes and disputes, disagreements, we can negotiate at the negotiation table. We can restore peace with some thoughtful, peaceful means, something that would last long, and there is no need for many people to endure the loss and misery. War has always been with the human beings. I mean, throughout the history, conflicts, violence was there among people, and we need to go long way in order to eliminate it completely. Unfortunately, we can never get rid of war when there are people, a group of people or leaders or some countries that they want to dominate other people, other countries through the use of force. Although many people and many historians say it and identify the concept of war as a complicated phenomenon, but still in terms of the conflicts regarding ethnic conflicts, religious conflicts, ideological conflicts, that are the plausible reasons for this war and for killing, they might differ in terms of the scope, in terms of the objectives, in terms of the causes, and in terms of the extent of repercussions. It's as if civilization is impossible without war, without conflicts, and without loss. Surely, without violence and aggression. And when you go to the cemetery, you can find out millions of bodies lying in their own gravestones due to the war in some certain time. Now, this is time to listen to the recordings, and don't forget your notebooks and your pens to jot down whatever necessary detailed information you might need later when you're going to answer the comprehension questions for the listening. Thank you. Now we're going to start Unit 14, and the title is Crime and Punishment. Like other units, we're going to start with some pre-listening tasks. Almost, yes, a list of 7 questions are here. I'm going to read the questions for you, and we're going to think about the possible answers. This pre-listening task is preparing us for the later recordings we're going to listen, and afterwards we're going to answer the listening comprehension questions. So it's like a warm-up, it's like a practice, it's like the introductory note. Number 1, do you like to read crime stories? Why or why not? What is considered a crime by law? How harmful is crime to our society? What should we be careful of when we go shopping? 5. How can we protect ourselves against crime? And 6. What are the causes of criminal activities? And the final one, 7. What should we do if we happen to spot someone committing a crime? For a briefing introduction, I'm going to read the different ideas people have already mentioned regarding the questions posed. One said that I'm interested in reading stories about crime or detective stories. One of my favorite crime novelists is Agatha Christie. A crime is an act that breaks the law and is punishable by the state. As defined by law, a crime includes both the act and the intent to commit the act. There are various kinds of crimes such as theft, bribery, corruption, burglary, robbery, drug trafficking, smuggling, kidnapping, rape, and murder. Some crimes are less serious, such as minor violations of some specific regulations. Parking offenses are one example. Crimes threaten people's lives and the stability of society, upset social order. Punishments for crime may include death, imprisonment, exile, fines, removal from public office, and disqualification from holding an office. Imprisonment of a criminal punishes the wrongdoer and expresses society's desire to see justice done. I think murderers deserve to be sentenced to death, and they are also deserve for and capital punishment. We must learn to protect ourselves against crime. When we go shopping in a crowded place, we should keep an eye on our wallet or purse and take care of our personal belongings and on guard against pickpockets. If we happen to spot someone committing a crime, we should alert the police, dial 110, dial 110 to call the police, and we should not panic. In order to prevent a burglary, we must close all the windows and lock the door, and we should make sure that all the windows are closed and the door locked when we go out. Do not let a stranger in without checking his identity when you are alone in the house. Use the keyhole to examine the person who knocks on your door. It's a common trick of some criminals to pretend to be a gas man coming to read your gas meter. The responsibility of law enforcement agencies is to detect crimes, catch the wrongdoers, and provide evidence that will convince judges that the suspects are guilty. To convict a criminal, the police use a variety of methods, including reconstructing the crime, collecting physical clues, and interrogating suspects and witnesses. Criminal behavior may be attributed to biological defects of the offender related to psychological factors or mental disorders related to environmental, social, or economic factors. Scientists are searching for links between patterns of aggressive behavior, brain function, and particular genes. Now we are going to listen to the two positive and negative arguments regarding this question. Should capital punishment be abolished in the near future? Now, from the perspective of a social worker, a positive answer, a positive attitude and perspective. I think we should abolish capital punishment as soon as possible. Capital punishment is cruel. It belongs to past ages and does not accord with modern civilization. Sooner or later, it will be abolished. Why not abolish it sooner? Many people want to impose the death penalty on someone who has killed. They want blood for blood, which they think is the only way to exercise justice. But this kind of reaction seems to be entirely based on revenge. An enlightened society should not take a life, should not have blood on its hands, even though the blood is not innocent blood. Capital punishment can sometimes be dangerous because it is irreversible. No criminal justice system anywhere in the world is free of the possibility of making mistakes. People were sentenced for crimes that others later confessed to. You can release the wrongly imprisoned, but what can you do for the wrongly executed? A slight error may lead to lasting regret, and the irreversible nature of this penalty denies the convict of any chance to change or to regain his humanity through the help of society. It is probably more meaningful to reform a criminal than to execute him. Our country at present is entering a prosperous age with increasingly better living conditions. The moral standards of the people are also rising. The government's present goal to enable all the people to live a well-to-do life in the near future will further reduce the crime rate, leading to a decline in popular support for capital punishment. Now, we're going to read this from the perspective of a law enforcement officer, which is a negative perspective. I think it is not appropriate to abolish capital punishment in the near future. Crimes of various kinds, including capital crimes, are still threatening the lives of innocent people. Corruption, embezzlement, bribery are injuring the interests of the public. Some countries that have abolished capital punishment are reintroducing it into their judicial systems. This shows that society is not yet ready for the abolition of capital punishment. In some cases, I think capital punishment is the only appropriate punishment, the only way to mete out true justice, because the crimes are extremely grave. After listening to this introductory briefing, we're going to listen to the recordings, and afterwards there is a list of comprehension questions that we need to answer. So let's get ready.